Hello, my name is Garvin, and I read things and natter about them on the internet for your entertainment. And welcome to Dick Month 2026, where we look at the works of Philip K. Dick, mostly the ones that have been adapted to other media, and today we're looking at the short story, The Golden Man. So let's not waste any more time, let's start with some of the basics here. The Golden Man is a short story weighing in at about 11,000 plus words or so. It was written in 1953 and submitted to the Scott Meredith Literary Agency. Now, it was originally entitled The God Who Runs, but the Scott Meredith Literary Agency published it in If magazine in their April 1954 issue under the title The Golden Man. The work, as you might have guessed, has caused a lot of discussion since its publishing and commentary, including some of the essays I'll be linking below in the description, but the story goes like this. Decades ago, World War III happened, and somehow, despite the exchange of hostilities and nuclear bombs, human civilization didn't end. In fact, human civilization is well into rebuilding, but there is a bit of a problem. The radiation from the bombs have caused mutation, and a good number of the people born with these mutations end up being dangerous or hostile to baseline humans. So an international organization called the DCA is created and tasked to hunt these mutants down, capture them, bring them into study, and what the story calls, not quite euphemistically, youthing. While I would guess not all mutants are hostile, no distinction is made. According to the DCA, all mutants must go. So, right off the bat, if you're like me, you're not inclined to be particularly charitable to them, but the story is told mostly from their point of view. It starts by having us follow Agent Baines, who is in a small town in California following a lead. To gather clues to hunt down this mutant, he poses first as a salesman in a diner, as a lawyer to the local cops, and finally, to the human family of the mutant, he poses as a lost real estate agent. And he needs to do this because this particular mutant named Chris Johnson has been hiding for 18 years. And that's impressive because Mr. Johnson here is a very distinctive guy. Now, he's tall and he's in great shape, which isn't that distinctive, but his hair and skin are also a bright gold. And I think that would stand out in any crowd. He's also incredibly quick, but despite his quickness, he's not able to escape the DCA, and when it's clear that he is surrounded, he surrenders peacefully. Although, during this whole thing, he never speaks a single word. Not to any of the DCA agents, and not to his family. In fact, one thing his family mentions is that in the entire 18 years that he's lived with them, he has never spoken or communicated to them at all, which is kind of weird. After Chris surrenders, the DCA brings him back to a lab and confines him to a cage. And through a series of non-invasive scans and experiments, they're able to determine a couple of things. Now, you remember I said that Chris never spoke to his family in 18 years. Apparently, that's because not only is he unable to use human language, he's unable to really understand it. The story says he has no activity in his frontal lobe, which means he is not self-aware or sapient. So he is not intelligent like a human being. He is incredibly quick physically, but that's not what scares everyone. Through a series of experiments, they determined that Chris is able to see the future. So he can see what happens in the next couple of minutes as easily as you see out your front window. And that really scares them to the point that they decide they have to kill him right now over the objections of Agent Baines' fiancée Anita, who's been brought in to observe this. However, because of his abilities, when they open up his cage to kill him, Chris is able to escape. But the DCA was smart enough to lock down the building that the lab is in, so he's still trapped inside. So the DCA decides to keep the building locked down and leave everyone inside, including Anita, who is given her own room to stay in for the night, and this was likely a mistake, because it's through this we learn about Chris's other ability, which is honestly the most disturbing and creepy ability he has. He can dominate human women and somehow mentally compel compel them to care for him and protect him. Chris uses his ability to have his way with Anita and then use her to escape. And once he's gone, she realizes just how badly she's been used and violated, and that causes her to break down, while the male agents grimly realize that between his ability to get women to protect and care for him and his ability to see into the future, he'll be nearly impossible to catch. And if his offspring are like him, then it's entirely possible that the human race is doomed to be replaced by non-sapient creatures who can see into the future and therefore don't need the ability to reason. Okay, so let's dig into this story a little bit. Now, we don't have to guess at what the message Mr. Dick was trying to convey was here, or what he was responding to, because he was good enough to release his notes about the story when the story was published. And he just flat out tells us, this is what I was trying to say. And in his notes, he says that this was a direct response to the widespread use of superhuman mutants appearing in the science fiction of the 1950s, mostly as glorious supermen, messiahs, come to lead humanity to the promised land. This was really championed by the influential editor of Astounding Science Fiction, John Campbell, who mandated that mutants should always be shown positively and in charge. Mr. Dick, who was somewhat distrustful of authority, had to ask the question here, what if these superhuman mutant messiahs just don't like us, or just don't care about us? And what if they decide to lead us to extinction just to get us out of the way? And this is where Golden Man comes from. Chris could be considered a Superman due to his ability to see into the future, his physical speed, and the other more creepy abilities he has, and he certainly looks like one. In the story, people repeatedly say he looks like a golden god or a golden statue of a Greek god. However, that's a facade. He is just a pleasant-looking predator, as Anita found out to her sorrow. This theme of Supermen being possible predators of humanity or just dangerous to baseline humans would be echoed in future science fiction works, most notably in Dune by Frank Herbert, where Paul Atreides uses his superhuman abilities to manipulate the Fremen and intentionally kickstarts a galactic jihad that kills billions on his road to vengeance. What Mr. Dick and Mr. Herbert are trying to warn us here is to beware of well-packaged people, whether they happen to be physically beautiful or they're just really good at telling us what we want to hear. We should beware of leaders who promise us that they can fix everything if we just give them all the power. People who claim they're the only solution to all of our problems and that they'll fix everything on day one, they're like Chris. They're predators wearing a golden coat to lure you in. The story also does a good job in tapping into some anxieties that I still see in society today. The men in the story are concerned about being replaced by a creature that looks human but is incapable of reason or thought. Chris only seems to react. He doesn't plan, but to be fair, given his ability to see into the future, he doesn't need to. He sees, and then he acts, and that's all he needs to do. I can completely believe humans in the future being afraid of being replaced. We have people today who live in constant fear that they're going to be replaced by other human beings. For example, today in my country, people have been murdered over this. Children have been taken from their families, and even worse things have been done because of this fear. If this level of fear and savagery can be inflicted over things like skin color, native language, or nation of origin, then I can only imagine the sheer depths of brutality people would go to over things like aliens, or something that wouldn't be seen as human by most people. Ironically, it was their fear that led to their undoing in this story. Chris could not escape his cage until the DCA agents opened the door for him. Just as an aside, folks, if you have a trapped precog and you want them dead, don't let them out of the trap. Don't give them the chance to get out of the trap. Figure out a way to kill them in the trap. And it's already shown in the story that they could construct machines that would interact with Chris in the cage, so they had the space. they could have figured out a way to build an enclosure around the cage and then use some foolproof method to kill him. But they didn't think of that because they were afraid. And because they were afraid, they panicked and they rushed. Fear leads to panic, and that panic pushes us to run into danger instead of away from it, to put our trust in people who will only bring more danger and more harm to the people we love while claiming to be saving us. And we don't see that because when you're afraid, you can't stop and think. If the DCA agents had stayed calm and just thought this out before they did anything, Anita and humanity wouldn't have been put into danger. But their fear, their panic, gave Chris the opportunity to escape and possibly do more harm to more people in the future. And I guess what I'm trying to say here is,
I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
So that's probably a bit of a dark note, but that is where I'm going to end this week's video. And I hope you found it informative or at least entertaining. If you did, please leave a like, a comment, or consider subscribing, as all of that helps me in my eternal battle against the Dread Lord Algorithm. Terror be on his name. If you'd like to give me further support against the Dreadlord, you can join my Everwise patrons. $1 a month gets you votes on upcoming content. And speaking of patrons, special thanks to Big Steve, my biggest supporter. Remember to let your fear pass over and through you, Steve. Next week, we're going to tone it down and look at a movie very loosely based on this story. Next, we have Next, starring the immortal Nick Cage. I hope you join me, but until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and keep reading.